Our next speaker has an unshakable belief that people can create anything. Add this to her love of facilitation and community engagement, and you can find her leading change efforts near and far. She is a serial mentor to the youth and startups and serves on the board of the social enterprise greenhouse. Everybody, please welcome Jen Silbert to the stage.
In 2011, as I was putting my then second grade daughter to bed, I noticed she was crying. She had learned that her teacher would get fired if she failed her kneecap test the next year, and this terrified her. It saddened me deeply. It threw me back to my own SAT days, the night sweats, the panic attacks, throwing up in the bathrooms just minutes before the standardized test began. My test scores were way below average, and yet I graduated with honors, first in my class. I didn't want my test-fearing trend to get passed down to my daughter, who, by the way, is super smart, like her mom. And I couldn't help but wonder, isn't there a more encouraging and accurate way to gauge learning? This is what keeps me up at night. 1 in 4 Rhode Island high school students doesn't graduate with their peers, many dropping out during their freshman and sophomore years. Many blame chronic absenteeism. Kids aren't engaged and simply don't come to school. Over a lifetime, that costs the average taxpayer $292,000 per dropout. A dropout will earn a third less than a high school graduate, a fifth that of a college graduate, and have significantly higher chances of living a life in poverty and/or prison. But here's the good news. Graduation rates are on the rise, locally and nationally, and studies credit increased engagement. That kids grow and stay in school when they feel connected to someone or something that interests them. Now, we all know what it feels like to be completely interested and engaged in learning something new. You are each a treasure trove of powerful learning stories. Stories that shape who you are, what you're good at, what you believe, and why. And stitched together, our stories paint an illustrative picture of what powerful learning is and can be in ways that testing alone cannot. Now, key word here, stories. I'm here to tell you how my colleagues and I are using stories to change the education debate and change the face of Rhode Island learning. Because no matter where you stand, for testing, against testing, Democrat, Republican, we all can agree we want more powerful learning, period. And this is why I started Learning 401 in Rhode Island, creating a safe, nonpartisan forum for storytelling, combined with civic dialogue on what powerful learning is and what it can be. So think open mic poetry slam, but instead of poems, we're sharing powerful learning stories. At our launch event last April, we had 101 students, parents, educators, employers, community leaders in the room. The stories I heard shook me, they provoked me, they had me laughing, crying, listening, connecting. One student quoted Learning 401 as the first time she felt like she had a voice, that she was more than her kneecap score or her grade point average. And a teacher called it professional development like none other, that it was really bridging the administrator-teacher-parent gap. Beyond our Story Slam events, we're meeting with and seeding partnerships across the state with student groups, with student unions, teacher unions, the Commissioner of Education, foundations, universities, even filmmakers and writers. Best part, we're building bridges across warring parties. And we might be the one thing that the Commissioner of Education and the Providence Teachers Union agree on. And this is the power of storytelling. Because we put down our parochial agendas, we listen to one another, and we talk with, not past each other. Because this isn't about a search for common ground. It's a search for higher ground. And culture change at that scale is all of our responsibility, not just our congressmen, and certainly not just our teachers. Learning happens everywhere, and it shows up in many forms. The most familiar and the most tested is academic. But equally important is social and emotional learning. Think of your smartest coworker. Do you admire them for their academic credentials alone? John Dewey, education activist and philosopher, believed that the purpose of education wasn't just to provide content knowledge, but to learn how to live, context, to make friends, to freely share ideas, solve solutions to our greatest challenges. Dewey also argued that our most sacred freedoms are preserved not by voting, but by engagement and communication among citizens like us, experts like our teachers and our students, and elected officials of government. So ask yourself this question. What's your most powerful learning story? Maybe it's from your adolescence. Maybe it involves a certain teacher or mentor. How has your story shaped you? And what does it teach us about learning? We're hosting our first South County Learning Story Slam right on this stage in January. Please join us. Better yet, please help us bring Learning 401 to a school, to a place of worship, to a community event near you. Please join me in search of better ways to learn. Thank you.